Convicted child rapist Jeffrey Donson has been re-elected as Kannaland mayor in the Western Cape. And if that's not enough, his deputy, Werner Meshoa, is, according to some media reports, a convicted fraudster and a former teacher who was fired for alleged sexual misconduct. Both belong to the independent civic organisation of South Africa Party. The party is in coalition with the ANC in the Western Cape. What does this mean for the governing party? Let's speak now to ANC provincial spokesperson Sifiso Mtsweni. Mr. Mtsweni, thank you very much for your time. Indeed, this begs the question, what message does the ANC send to the people voting for their candidates once they've entered into a coalition which hinges on the participation of two people convicted of serious sexual crimes against children?
Good evening to you and good evening to your viewers. I think firstly, let's put a correct context. The ANC has agreed to enter into discussions with other political parties in the province as a result of 15 hung municipalities in the province. And we've set principles which we've agreed on from national, that we want the stability of municipalities, we want clean and accountable governance, we want, strict adherence to no corruption, we want organizations that are committed to creating a non-racial, non-sexist, a democratic and a prosperous society. But most importantly, we continue with our fight against gender-based violence. Now,
Mr. Mtsweni, I'm sorry to interrupt there. I know you're giving us the context, but that sounds very much like lip service. Can we get to the crux of the matter, which is the ANC's support for two child rapists?
Well, no. That's what I'm trying to point out, that when you sit around a table with various organizations and you reach agreements, those organizations don't come with a list of their candidates. We agree that in this particular area we'll share certain responsibilities and roles. And unfortunately for us, when we reached an agreement with eNCA, we were not aware of who they would actually field, particularly in Kannaland. Now, we correctly accept the outrage that has actually been out there. Yesterday, the provincial leadership of the ANC in the Western Cape has met. And part of the decisions we have taken is that that particular coalition agreement in Kannaland must be reviewed. But just as a quick point as well, in Kannaland, there's only 3 organizations. It's the ANC, it's eNCA, which has majority of the votes there, and the Democratic Alliance. And the Democratic Alliance has been quite clear and emphatic that they don't want to work with the African National Congress, which then leaves you with a dilemma, if one were to say that, because it then means that you are now sitting with a situation where if there's no agreement between eNCA and ANC, eNCA and DA, or ANC with DA, you are bound to have a situation where that particular municipality cannot be constituted. However, we do share in the outrage, and we actually calling on eNCA to reconsider, particularly those 2 individuals that it has fielded.
Is the ANC in a position in this specific area to demand? Calling on a party to recall candidates is one thing. Speaking out very strongly and demanding different candidates be elected are 2 different things. Is the ANC in a position to do so?
Well, we can't prescribe to organizations as to who they choose as their leaders. By the way, the individual in question, particularly the mayor, is the leader of eNCA as an organization as a whole. And he has been a mayor before. In fact, he's been a mayor time immemorial. And what is happening consistently is that the people of Kannaland continuously vote for eNCA. As I'm speaking to you today, eNCA is the majority party in that particular area. But we, as the African National Congress, particularly in this era of renewal and rebuilding, we find this particular situation to carry a lot of reputational risk. But I do think that there has been an unfair reporting in that the ANC has actually put a child rapist as a mayor, whereas the ANC has not fielded a mayor in Kannaland. It is eNCA which must account for its own leaders. Where we are seated, unfortunately, we cannot tell organizations as to who they must deploy. We agree on certain principles. Unfortunately, in this case, this was the outcome of the situation, and we've now taken a decision to actually review that particular coalition agreement that was reached there.
Absolutely agree with you that it's unfair to point the finger solely at the ANC, where eCOSA needs to take ownership of its own leadership there. And obviously we also have to speak to the society where people in Kannaland are electing a mayor. They have re-elected a mayor who has been known to have been found guilty of child rape. A lot of analysis on the issue, a lot of outrage on the issue, asking as to whether gender-based violence in South Africa has been normalized to such a level that people in power are allowed to have such devastating past. I mean, someone in power is allowed to have a criminal record. Does this speak possibly to a need to change the legislation where electing of leadership is regarded, where people who have a criminal past are no longer allowed to serve in positions of power? Is the ANC looking into making those kind of changes?
Well, I think we respect the rule of law. And part of what the rule of law actually says is that when a person is convicted and maybe imprisoned or fined, there's a correctional process that kicks in. So, for instance, somebody goes and serves 5 years imprisonment, he comes out, there's a period in which a person...
I understand that. I want to bring that specifically to this case, though, where Mr. Donson had a suspended sentence, did not serve a single day in jail, paid a 20,000 rand fine, and is now once again the mayor of this area. Does that seem fair to you when part of his duties as mayor is to protect the rights of children?
Well, as I'm saying, from the ANC, we are very, very, very serious when it comes to issues of gender-based violence. You would remember that the president has actually set up a specific commission to look into these issues of gender-based violence. There's been talks of, specialized courts. There's been talks of offenders lists, where if somebody particularly has transgressed, particularly as it relates to rape, as it relates to abuse of women and children, those particular people must be on a particular list so that they are identified and isolated. And I'm saying, unfortunately, the point I was trying to actually emphasize is that the laws of our country also allow, in a way, the reintegration of offenders into society. However, in this case, I think we agree, myself and you and the rest of society, that we cannot have leaders of our society, particularly as it relates to statutory rape or the abuse of young girls. I mean, that is quite outrageous. But unfortunately, certain questions we cannot answer on behalf of eCOSA or on behalf of Mr. Donson. I think the decision we have taken now is to agree with everybody else that indeed this does not augur well, particularly for the image of the African National Congress, which has taken quite a huge battering from the elections. And I think one of the things that we need to do is to listen to the voice of the electorate when it says, shape up, renew the organization, and ensure that you stay away from such controversies and start focusing on ensuring that we serve the interest of the people. And I'm sure once we do that, as we go ahead, one day the people of Kannaland and the rest of the Western Cape, as we have seen, by the way, in 15 municipalities in the province, Oudtshoorn today has the youngest mayor at the age of 24, is an ANC mayor. Oudtshoorn was never under the ANC in the last 5 years. So somewhere, somehow, there are areas that are waking up to the reality that indeed the ANC is renewing itself. The ANC's message is now becoming different. And unfortunately, eCOSA in this case has, sort of attempted to downplay the good progress that we have made. And really, we call on them to reconsider some of the decisions that they are taking.
Yes, Mr. Mtsweni, I can't speak on behalf of all South Africans, but for the ANC to renew itself, action is required. Calling on a party to do something is one thing. Standing by the ANC's mandate to eradicate gender-based violence in this country is something else entirely. And we hope to see clear, decisive action in this case specifically. But thank you very much for speaking to us about such a controversial issue. That was the ANC provincial spokesperson in the Western Cape, Sifiso Mtsweni.